All right. Welcome to 2021 on Tuesdays. We spent a good chunk of last year covering the various places where God reassures us, do not be afraid. And we went through a total, believe it or not, of 37 weeks, 37 different verses with that phrase in it. And in total, to be honest, there's actually 145 or so by best count. But I thought for 2021, we would change things up a little bit on Tuesdays. And so what we're going to be doing is we're going to be looking at the teachings of Jesus and specifically his parables. I mean, who doesn't love a good story, a good metaphor, a good simile? Who knows the difference between a simile and a metaphor? Yeah, I'm not sure I do either, but all of these things kind of get wrapped up in the way Jesus taught. And he taught through these ways in order to invite us into kind of a deeper understanding of what it meant to live in the flow and with the understanding and with the pattern of thinking that he talked about. And so as he tells each of these, he actually says that they're for those who have an ear to hear. So we're going to take some time each Tuesday and see if we can listen a little closely and discover something new about what Jesus is inviting us into. All right, so as we look at these parables and metaphors, the first one we're going to look at is actually found in the book of Mark. Towards the beginning, it's the first one at the beginning of Mark's gospel as Mark was writing down Peter's words. And as he's looking at it all, he's actually just finished eating with people who the Pharisees were disgusted with. Like he was hanging out with sinners and tax collectors, the worst kind, right? He had just finished calling Levi to be a disciple. And he has this interesting discussion with the Pharisees about fasting. See, the Pharisees, they notice, okay, this rabbi, he doesn't hang out with the people that we think are proper and appropriate for a rabbi to hang out with. And as he's looking around, he's like, they're like, and look at his disciples. We're all fasting. We're taking a time of mourning and contemplation and prayer and crying out to God to intercede on the behalf of the nation of Israel. And they say even John the Baptist's disciples, they're also doing this. But Jesus' disciples aren't. One of these things is not like the other. And so they look at this and they say, Jesus, what are you doing? And Jesus has this incredible thing where he says, well, hang on. He says, fasting is you know what fasting is, but you've been invited, like I've arrived. You've been invited to a wedding celebration. And who in their right mind goes to a wedding feast and with the bridegroom there doesn't feast, doesn't celebrate, doesn't talk about something as a new thing is created there, a new relationship is restored there at a wedding, right? And he says that, and then he has these interesting words, and at least half of this possibly if you grew up in church. In Mark 2, verse 21, he says, no one sews a patch of unshrunk cloth, like brand new cloth. No one sews a patch of unshrunk cloth on an old garment. Otherwise, the new piece will pull away from the old, making the tear worse, right? Because that unshrunk cloth is going to shrink, it's going to tear a bigger hole. And then he goes on in verse 22, and no one pours new wine into an old wineskin. Otherwise, the wine will burst the skins, and both the wine and the wineskins will be ruined. No, they pour new wine into new wineskins. So Jesus is basically saying, the old, it's not totally compatible with the new. You have to renew it. It has to be completely different. Why? Because Jesus came to offer a brand new start. He's talking about himself. He's talking about how we interact with his teachings. He says, hey, no, I came to offer you a brand new start, a fresh start, a clean slate, to bring the day of salvation, to intervene in a way that nobody expected, as God does intervene in human history and intervenes in a way that teaches us to live, sacrifices himself on a cross, and comes to life again. Like, the old teachings and the old ways of understanding things, he's saying the stuff that you've learned, the time for that is over. There's something new that's arrived. There's a new understanding now of who God is through Jesus. There's a new way that we can think about how we see other people and how we can love them, and a new way of understanding what obedience to God can really look like, and how life-giving it can be, and how we understand this can change everything for us forever. Like, it even changes the old. So he says the old can't contain it. It's too incredible. The old can't hold it in. It's going to burst at the seams because a new thing has come. So my challenge to you is this: where in your life are you trying to put a new patch on an old way of thinking? Where is it maybe in 2021 that it's time to refocus and say, it's not just about helping a small niche. It's not just about me adding a couple of minutes of prayer time with God this year. Maybe your relationship with God needs like a totally new pattern of thinking. Maybe it's time to throw out the old wineskin, the old cloth, and bring in the new. Maybe it's time to say, okay, God, let's start over again, because you gave me a new start and I want to be fully dedicated to you. I want to be all in. I want you to dress me. I want you to give me all I need. Bow your heads with me. God, thank you so much that you offer us a new life, a new being, a new way of existing, and that existing is in you. May we be your temple. May we treat others as if they're made in your image. And may we learn this new way of thinking more deeply today than we did yesterday. I pray this in your name. Amen.